Hey everyone, it's Chris here. I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to learn the other languages for the other continents and factions, which would be very useful in like PvP, planning your attack, anything like that, or if you just want to have private chats between the other factions. Now if you push K to either open up your skill window, or you can also click on the dual swords down here, you will see the tabs way at the very end. There's a language tab. Here you'll see that I only know 2 of the languages on my character. The Nuyen is human, and the Nuya continent is actually where you start out as a Nuyen or an elf, and that's your continent. So what that means is that I can speak the human language, such as like English, and then the Nuyen continent, or Nuya continent, is the continent dialect where everybody on that continent can hear it, understand it, speak it, but only the people that are proficient in the languages otherwise can understand like the human or the elven or the Harani or the Freyan. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn one of these other languages so that you can understand, so we can understand it. The first one I want to learn is actually, if possible, the continent dialect for the opposite faction, because that'll become really useful once we start delving into PvP. So what we need to have in our inventory is actually a book called Art of Language, which you can see is right here. It does require 100 labor per book, and you have to have a book each time you turn in the skill, like do a turn in. It does require you to use the printing press, and it requires 50 paper, 5 memory ink, and 5 leather. Now I've already made me 1 book, but you can see it requires a lot of paper, which paper also requires lumber and blue salt wedges. It does create 2 paper per lumber and salt wedge, which is nice. So this can help you gain your printing ability, but it does require a lot of materials and a lot of labor. So if you're low on labor, you're low on materials, low on gold, you don't want to really rush this. So we already have one of these books in the inventory, which is actually right here, this little green book. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that in at the library, or in our continent, the Nuyen continent, it's a university. Over on the other continent, I believe it is the library. It's all going to be in your capital city, where our capital city is Mariupol. So right here behind me, or now in front of me, is the library, or the university. So I'm going to run in here, and there's the librarian at the desk, and usually beside her are 2 people called tutors, but they only show up in the day. So I'm going to have to wait until the game time is roughly 7 or 8 a.m. So we'll stand outside, and I'm going to pause the video, and when they pop up, I will come back to the video. So while we're waiting on the tutors to come up, I figured I would put a small little clip in here of how do we actually make this book, because you may not know. So what we need to do, like I said, we need to have paper, leather, and memory ink. Now memory ink can be purchased from just a general merchant. Very easy to find. In fact, if you look at where I'm at on the map right here, next to the Hall of Art, if you look right across from me where those stuffed animals are, right in that building, there is a general merchant. You can walk in there, buy some memory inks, and it's not that expensive to buy. Next thing we need to do is we need to have lumber, because we need to make paper. So we're going to go over here to the printing press. If you actually look on your mini map, you can see the printing press. Now you'll notice I have very little icons on my mini map. That's because I opened up my main map, and over here where it says show icons, I actually can choose what to show and what not to show. Then the printing press and paper press and stuff like that are underneath the infrastructure tab. So you can click the arrow right there, and it'll bring up everything that's underneath that tab. And right now I just have leather, workbench, printing press, and paper press selected, because I just wanted to know where that stuff is. If you want to show everything, you can actually click on all. Then it'll put everything on there, and you see everything, including the artistry workbenches, the fish stands, the cloth forms, the armor forms, everything. All the dungeon portals, everything. It's kind of neat, but I love how you can select, choose, and pick and choose, or you can just turn it off completely. See, nothing. So, again, what we need to look for is just the paper press and printing press. Well, I am actually in front of the paper press, so we're going to use the paper press and go and click on paper. We can see it cost 1 lumber and 1 blue salt wedge, like I was showing earlier, to make 2 paper. Well, the book requires 50 paper, so that means that we need to make 25 papers. Now, I'm not going to do it right now because I already have enough paper for another book. So then what you can do after that is click on the book right here. It's this little green book right in the higher tier crafts bar. Click on that, and then if you already have your leather, if not, you'll need to get leather either from the auction house or making it from hide, or pelts, sorry, and your paper and your memory ink. Now you can purchase paper and leather both on the auction house. It's just cheaper to actually make your own paper most of the time, and memory ink, you can get it off the auction house, but you'll overpay, so just get it from a general merchant. It takes 50 paper, 5 memory ink, and 5 leather to make the 1 book, and then of course the 100 labor. Now, because we clicked on the higher tier crafts here, you'll see that it says workbench printing presses in red. So the best thing to do is actually just right click over here on the printing press, which is right next to the paper press, go to books, and it's your first one, art of language. So we can make one, we have enough materials, so we're going to make one. It does cost 100 labor. It does give you 100 experience for the printing skill. So a couple of times to do this and you can get some pretty decent skill level at it. So you'll see my printing proficiency is at 350. It's because I made 100 paper earlier and then now 2 books. So now that we have the other book in the inventory, we're going to head back over to the university, which if you watch, I'm going to run there. It's real easy to go through that arch, and then you just run right down here past the tree, and the entrance is to the left. So it's not hard to find. There's the entrance right there on the left, and we're still waiting for the tutors to show up. So I'm going to pause the video again, and hopefully soon they will be there. Okay, so it does turn out that they show up at 10 o'clock in game time. It's 10:30 right now. I was just waiting around a little bit, but right here is the tutors inside the university. You can either hit F or you can right click on them. It is to learn the Hyrenian continent dialect here in your capital city. Now if you go to the Elven capital city, that will, I believe, teach you the Elven. I will test that out and update. But here we're learning it, and it does consume 1 of the books, so you will have to have a book for every time that you do this. So you can see there that it did give me 50 in the proficiency for the dialect. It does use 50 labor. I did gain quite a bit of experience, but now you can see over here in the language tab that I do have a 50 on here, which is still 0%. Once you reach roughly 50 to 60%, then you can start understanding quite a bit of the language. Once you start reaching about 10%, you can start understanding a word here and there. So you do have to use quite a few books to get that. You also do get a debuff for 3 hours called reviewing. It makes it to where you can't, for the next 3 hours, you can't use another tutor session. So that way you can't just continuously do it. So it's actually a 4-hour debuff. So every 4 hours. So you want to definitely hit them when they hit 10 o'clock. Alright. Okay, after searching all over in Memoria, I have determined that there is not a tutor here. So I'm not really sure how you learn the other languages, except for after you learn the continent dialect that you possibly can start learning the others. If anybody knows, please leave them in the comments of the video, and then I can, and then other people will know as well. So thanks for watching, and subscribe, because there will be more videos for ArcheAge coming out. And y'all have a good night.